how he lives. He's processing all the time.
But I need to know how much time I have, because my calling is to tell people to get ready and then to teach them. This place here is supposed to be a city of refuge that people could come to if they can get here, and we can teach what is going on. When people like to know when these events take place, they're all in the Revelation. It's all there. I had 5 years of a vacation kind of put away, you know,
yes.
Isolated vacation. But I studied the Word, word by word of the book of Revelation, and it's there. If we don't study the Word, you don't know what's going on. It all would sound like a fairy tale if you don't know the Word. What does God say? What does His Word say?
Yes.
The Old Testament gives us information of what's going on now. The wars of the last day, they're in the Old Testament, they're in the New Testament. And I'm not an expert. I just read a lot and try to study and bring to this broadcast people who have information, people that have studied. And you spend every single day of your life almost studying the news, true news.
Too much.
Yeah.
It's burning. It's again, we're reaching a point where the Lord is showing me there's no point in knowing more about this. Jim, it's like studying the medical chart of a terminal patient.
Wow.
Do you know why I don't retire? You know, I'm sure.
Yeah, you can't.
I can't retire. But I don't retire because my job is to tell people just to prepare. Just so you can have some food, so you can talk. If you don't eat for a few weeks, you're not going to be talking anymore. If you don't drink water for 4 days, you're dead. Right?
Yes.
I want you to be able to tell your neighbors and your friends. It's going to be the greatest chance we have to get a load of people going to heaven with us. But we need to be, you know, it's just like I'm eating eggs right now that my son was preparing for me, and I gave you some eggs there. You should.
I'm going to get to them.
You should be eating because you can eat on the show. I know it's very difficult.
It's hard to talk
for
and eat
people
at the same time. Yeah.
But we have these in stock right now. They are 10-year eggs. Our regular.
Let me fast forward through this here real quick.
But if you want to order, so we have the eggs in.
Because I know
laid them for 9 to 8.
a lot of people doesn't want to hear.
Is based on the present destruction of the chicken flocks. Well, this is.
Let me go back here.
The projection of 18 months is based on the present destruction of the chicken flocks. Well, this is it's spread. It's accelerating, Jim, and it's airborne. It's moving into states where they say, how did they get here? And they're already shutting down all the poultry shows at the state fairs.
They didn't believe it back in 1918 when the swine flu, they call it, and they call it different things. But this is something that, again, you don't hear it preached in your church. You're not going to hear it even on the news much. This is the worst bird flu epidemic in history.
Yes.
And
That's right. 35 different countries have been affected by this. Now, scientists are saying that it's unlikely this could mutate so that it would affect human beings. But here's the thing. We know from studying the book of Revelation, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, that 4th horseman, that pale horse, that's going to be that's going to be the carrier of death. It talks about how 1/4 of the world is going to die from disease by the animals. That's pestilence. So the thing is, yeah, okay, so what we're experiencing right now, this might not be the exact strain that's going to mutate so that we as human beings can be affected by it. But we know sooner or later, it is going to happen, and it is going to kill 1/4 of the world.
In 1999, in August of 99, I'd already been on the air a couple months, but I was the first newsman to start reporting about West Nile virus. And I talked about it so much that people our listeners were calling saying, "Can you get on another subject? This is you've wore this out." But I did a lot of research, and I came to the conclusion that West Nile virus was deliberately introduced into New York City by Cuban spies working for Fidel Castro. Cuba has a vast biological warfare research and development operation. Vast. People had no idea. Fidel Castro has been fascinated with infecting mosquitoes with viruses. The day, well, let's say the week that the West Nile virus appeared in New York City, there was a delegation of Cuban diplomats who were allowed to enter the country to go to the United Nations. I think they released it right there. I think they carried a vial in, they released it, and that's how it happened. So I mean, it just makes sense to me. Somebody is releasing a bird flu virus in the United States, and it's going from state to state. The other day,
which they're really quite shocked by, according to
yes,
the news.
because it has to be airborne, or somebody has to be deliberately carrying it to another state. Because in South Dakota last week, a major egg producer, was hit. It's like 2.5 million hens had to be killed. And they said, look, the president of the company said, we have taken extreme measures to protect our farm.
It's scary when, truth is hard to come by.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in the Great Influenza. And in some cities where the mayors and governors all in the state, they protected the people. I mean, they did everything they could. And they warned them, and they canceled parades, like 4th of July parades and all during that time. They canceled them. And the cities that canceled the parades had like 50% less deaths. And the way that the people stayed alive is they stayed home and they didn't go out, and they literally boarded up their houses and they stayed inside and they had enough food. And that, to me, is another reason why, if you have food and water in your house, you could stay there during a crisis and come out the other side.
That's right. There's a thought that came to my mind. I think it might help some of you folks listening, watching the program, who are saying, Jim, I don't have a lot of money to buy all this stuff. And this is something the Holy Spirit told me one day, because I was getting phone calls and emails and letters from our radio listeners saying, Rick, I don't have a lot of money to stockpile food. I believe you. I don't have the money. What am I going to do? And I mean, I remember one woman, she said, I'm blind. I live on a pension. I'm by myself. What am I going to do, Rick? And so one day, I was walking in a pasture field. This is 2011, and I was praying, and I said, Lord, my heart breaks. It grieves. I don't know what to say to the people. You're showing me what's coming, and I've got these people who are saying, I believe you, but I don't have the money to prepare. What do I do? And I sought the Lord, and this is what he told me, Jim. He said, tell them to store something. Something. He said, they have to have something to share with others. If they have nothing to share, I have nothing to multiply. You hear that, Jim?
Yeah.
If you have nothing to share, God has nothing to multiply.
Rick Joyner said you have to have something to barter with, something to exchange with others.
Yeah, but in God's system, it's even greater. You got to have something to share. When you share, God's going to supernaturally bless what you have.
And that's why the body of Christ coming together, one will have what the other needs.
Yes.
And that's what they did. The New Testament church worked that way.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
And so, why would it be stupid to store food? 20-year shelf life food. I'm not talking about stuff that rots.
Right.
I'm talking about if you have Social Security and they stop paying the bill and there's no money to buy food, why would it hurt to have buckets of food that you could eat in a crisis? What would hurt? What would hurt? Why would anybody be wasting any money on survival food? What would waste it? And now this is the only food bucket right now that we have is the brand new 40 days and 40 nights, but this is our new recipes, and if you like them, you can order a year of these recipes. You could order 7 years of these recipes if you call and just order them if you want to. This food is ready to go today.
Right.
This food is thousands in the, and there's the Noah's Ark on the top there.
Yeah.
There's so much happening right now that we don't know. And did you see the new warnings about Yellowstone National Park?
Oh yeah, it's much bigger than they thought.
Just came out last week again. A new warning. Did you see that?
Yes.
What is it? It's bigger.
Yes.
It was bigger before. They said it was bigger than they thought. Again, they're saying. Can you tell me about that?
Well, they're just saying that the magma is a much bigger pool than they ever imagined. And of course, it's the ground has been swelling from time to time. Jim, several years ago, and I'm trying to think, 2000, I'm going to say maybe 2004, I was still living in Texas. I know it was at least that time. It was a Saturday afternoon. My family was away. I was home alone. And I was just spending a lot of time praying, seeking the Lord about these things. The Lord told me that day, I'm going to cut off America's food supply. And I said, Lord, how's it going to be done? And not like I heard an audible voice, but the word volcano appeared in my spirit. I sat down on my sofa. I turned on the television because it was like, this is getting so heavy, I can't deal with this right now. I'm going to just watch some TV.
Right. Exactly.
I got to tune out of this.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah, we do know what you mean. Yes.
And here's, you know what the Lord did to me?
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, Ricky, you want to tune this out? So I turned on the TV, and it's a documentary on Yellowstone.
Oh, of course. That's how it has.
Probably the one made in England.
Yes, it was. Yes, it
That's
was. The
happened so
BBC.
many
The United States hasn't made them. It's from the BBC in
Yes.
England, and they just said they were wrong again. They said, if this thing goes, it is going to be like nothing else, and a big hunk of America will be gone.
I read a recent report that talked about that how they had misjudged the molten rock as well beneath Yellowstone. That there's actually enough molten rock beneath Yellowstone to fill the Grand Canyon 11.5 times.
Whoa.
The big one to me was the New Madrid, that the earthquake hit the day the president signed the temporary or the first agreement with Iraq or with Iran.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes.
You know
And
everything.
the one that's coming, the one that's coming is the Los Angeles one that God showed you.
Yeah.
He showed you that.
I saw it
I know you did.
underground.
I read your book.
You're kidding.
No, I read that book. I know you saw it. You felt it. You said you were in a vehicle and everything began shaking.
Yeah.
And there wasn't one building left standing in downtown Los Angeles.
Jim, I got a story to tell you. This is true, and I'm going to be I got to be diplomatic. I got to be careful I don't say the name because there's a situation going on in Ecuador. Okay, my daughter is there with her family.
Didn't she help kids and
She
stuff?
rescues children.
Yeah, I thought
Okay,
so.
and there's a situation. They need prayer right now. They're under horrific demonic attack. They were leading so many street children to the Lord, and Satan really came against them hard to shut them down. But I won't say the names of these children, all right, because she's asked me not to speak their names on the air anymore,
Yeah.
because I'm being monitored in what I say.
Yeah.
So there was one little girl, but at age 2, they took her in. She had been damaged from trauma, from the abuse. She could not speak. And my wife Susan went to Ecuador and spent a couple months there and taught her sign language, so she could speak with sign language. Well, last year, this was February 2014. This is what happened. It was a Saturday. I woke up and I'm having a dream when I slept in late on a Saturday. I woke up and I'm dreaming about the Lord. I've never had a dream like this. I saw Jesus, and he was dressed. We were out. He and I were in a huge field, just grass. And he was dressed like a church bishop. He had a white inner robe and a red outer robe. He had a hood. He had a staff in his left hand, and his right arm was around my shoulder, and with his right finger, he's pointing. And I'm looking in the direction he's pointing. And when I woke up, I heard the words, "He shall guide you." So that was the dream. Later that day, around 2 p.m., my daughter Carissa called me from Ecuador, and she goes, "Dad, you've got to hear what happened." She said, "I was taking a nap with little so-and-so, and you know, Dad, she hasn't spoken in her entire life." I go, "I know." She said, "I woke up, the Lord said, lay hands on her and pray that she speaks." She said, she woke up and she began making words. And they were short sentences, and with sign language and 2 to 3 word sentences, she communicated. Wait till you hear what she said. She said, "I see Jesus." Carissa said, "Where did you see Jesus?" She did this. Carissa said, "Asleep?" She goes, "Yes, see Jesus." She said, "What did Jesus do?" This is her first time to speak. Amazon jungle girl. She said, "Jesus come down with fire. Everything burned up. Houses, cars, people, everything on fire." And then she said, she pointed to her lips and she said, "Jesus say it." And Carissa said, "Honey, what did Jesus tell you to say?" And she said, "He say he come with fire." This is a 4-year-old in the Amazon. Okay, she had a second dream, and then a third dream. About 3 or 4 months later, she had a third dream. The third dream, Jim, she told Carissa she saw a fire mountain with fire water coming out of the fire mountain. And 4 bad, mean men on horses came out of the fire mountain. And they had swords, and they were doing bad things to the people. Wow. And wait to hear this. And she said the people cried to God for help. And she said Jesus turned and looked the other way and did not help them. A 4-year-old saw 4 evil men on horses.
My goodness.
And Jim, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Brother,
See,
it's
the 4
happening right
horses,
now.
They're
the
out of
4
the barn.
horses are
Riding.
evil.
They're riding.
So
Yeah.
many Christians used to think the first horse was Jesus.
Oh.
And that's the Antichrist. And that Antichrist is the Islamic Antichrist,
Yes.
or Christ. That's their
Yes.
Messiah, which is our Antichrist. It's all in place. It's all happening now. We're in those days.
Yes.
We are in those times.
And it's not a pale horse. It's a green. It's chloros. It's not pale. It's green, chloros. Okay? But the riders, they're riding now.
We do not have a lot of time. It's time to do whatever we're going to do, and if we're going to do it, we need to do it now. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is not an overstatement, Jim. We are moving rapidly towards a dramatic change in this country. Listen, Jim, you got Andrew White, Canon Andrew White, is an Anglican pastor. He was the Anglican pastor of Baghdad, Iraq. Okay, he's British, and I know him. And he fled. He had to flee. He had a congregation of 5,000 to 6,000 people. They're all gone. Oh, they're all gone. He doesn't know how many are alive anymore. He had a little boy, 10 years old. He baptized this boy. His parents named him for Andrew White. This is in Iraq. They told his parents, ISIS, they told his parents to renounce Jesus Christ. This is a true story. Andrew told me this story. He wept. He broke down and wept as he told me this story. ISIS told the parents, renounce Jesus Christ and worship Allah. They said, we will not do it. And in front of the mother and father, they cut the boy in half. Oh. Now, we're in a different day.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
This is a different hour.
That's right.
And I've told my staff, you know what? In years past, it was pretty easy to build an end-time ministry talking about the end times when it wasn't the end times.
Right. Isn't that the truth?
But it's now the end times.
Yes.
And it's not easy anymore. And
No.
it's dangerous.
Yes.
And some of us may lose our lives in the days ahead for doing what we're doing.
Whatever we're going to do, we need to do. America needs to turn to God. We could see, I think, great pockets of safe places if churches, you know, I know the world's going to be on fire. I know there's going to be terrible things, but I know God's going to take care of his own somehow. And when we die, we just go to heaven anyway. So I'm not concerned about that. All I'm concerned about is that we do it God's way. And America has turned from God. And we haven't, since we banned prayer, we banned Bible reading, we have not won one war. We haven't won any wars.
Oh.
We didn't win Vietnam. As far as I'm concerned, I know the story of Vietnam.
And now we're provoking Russia and China. We're sending warships to the Spratly Islands to challenge China's building of airstrips in the Spratly Islands. The Spratly Islands are a chain of islands in the South China Sea. Various countries claim various islands. China's claiming all of them. Okay? They're just saying, we don't care, you know, Philippines, Taiwan, they're all ours. Well, China is building fake islands on reefs.
Yes, I've been reading about that.
They're hauling in massive amounts of sand.
They're not saying
building
why.
landing strips.
Why?
For jet fighters.
Do you
They're
people
building
know this?
military
Do you know
bases.
this at all? Have you heard that? China is building islands
In the sea.
in the sea. About how many do you know?
Well, I know two, that they're building 10,000 feet, 10,000 foot long runways.
And they're building them on what
Reefs.
would be considered public land, or not public, what would you call it? It's not their land,
Right.
if you want.
They're just they're little reefs out in the ocean. And they're just saying that's ours.
They're claiming it.
They're claiming it.
Some say they don't have a right to do that,
They're
but
bring in the ships.
when you're
loaded
that
with-
big, I guess you
They're
got a
bringing
right.
in ships of sand. They're building fake islands, putting in military base, landing strips. And last week, the United States said, we're going to send warships to challenge China. Again, it has nothing to do with the islands. It has nothing to do with Ukraine. It has everything to do with who controls the banking system. China and Russia are building an alternative system of finance to challenge London and New York.
What does the islands have to do with that?
We're picking a fight there. It's all about starting a war to maintain control. Listen, Saddam Hussein was bragging about starting a Middle Eastern gold dinar. Then Colonel Gaddafi was bragging that he was going to start a gold currency for the Middle East. He also told the United States and the West he didn't want any more paper money for his oil. He wanted gold. Where is Colonel Gaddafi? And where is his 144 tons of gold that was in his central bank? Where is it? It's been stolen, Jim. You know why it's stolen? Because Germany has asked for their gold back from the U.S. Federal Reserve. And the U.S. Federal Reserve doesn't have that gold. And so they're going around, they're starting wars to steal gold. This whole thing is coming apart because it's built on lies and thievery. It's false weights and measures. And God says this is an abomination. And I can't let this go on. And these guys are saying, we're desperate. we're losing power. We're losing control. And Russia and China are saying, yes, you are. We're going to challenge you. And I'm telling you, World War III is on the horizon. And if God does not intervene to stop this, we're going to see a war that's probably going to result in 1 billion casualties. And this is one of the things from that vision of '98 that I just never wanted to share. I don't like it. For the Lord told me that if this nation persists in its rebellion, if you survive what's coming, the other option will be slavery. You will be a slave to a foreign conqueror. Oh, God, no. It's all through this Bible. He made them slaves. You know,
he always said you'd be slave to your enemies. That's what happened.
Yes.
That's what happened to Israel, the Jewish people.
Jonathan Cahn, and I brought Jonathan to Vero Beach before he wrote The Harbinger.
You're kidding.
No, and I had written a manuscript called The Bricks Have Fallen.
Oh, my land.
And so I brought Jonathan to Vero Beach to speak. That's the first time he spoke The Harbinger, was in our meeting in Vero Beach, before he had finished the book. So during his visit, he told me, he said, Rick, I'm writing a book. I said, Jonathan, I'm writing one. Mine's called Bricks Have Fallen. He said, mine's called The Harbinger. And so I stepped back and I said, Lord, I don't know what's going on here. But I don't want to get in I don't want to get in a race to see who prints this book first. I'm just going to withdraw. I'm just going to stand back and let him publish his book. If nothing happens with it, then I'll publish mine. Well, it was the right decision. All right, because the Lord blessed that book.
And he knows the rest of it.
Yes.
And he is very nervous.
I know he is.
About the rest of the story.
Yes.
He is very nervous because 10 years later, at one of the situations, Israel then is destroyed.
Yes.
God gave them
10
years to repent, and we have had 10 years.
Yes. I told Jonathan one day, this is several years ago.
And he doesn't like proclaiming judgment.
I know
the
he
rabbi
doesn't.
doesn't.
I know he
but
doesn't.
he's been called.
Yes.
I call him the current Billy Graham. I believe that he is the man that God... can you imagine using a rabbi? If that isn't a sign of the last day, that he called the rabbi to warn.
Did you hear his sermon in Washington last month?
Yes, I did.
It was the most powerful, anointed sermon I've ever heard him deliver.
I mean, when I sit here with the rabbi for hours, I feel like I'm sitting in prophetic word. I'm in a prophetic illustration with him sitting there, and he has been called. Billy Graham no longer is really speaking out, not able to speak out a whole lot, but Billy was the man God used to warn presidents, to warn people. But God has chosen the rabbi, and he's given him this word. But what you're saying, no one else is saying what you just said. I've sat here week after week, month after month, knowing the next shoe is going to drop. We have a brand new food offer. We have been testing this food